So, Donna, firstly, welcome onto the Soul Sync podcast.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
I'm delighted to have you on. I must admit, the first time I ever came across Donna, and I'm going to have to say this, Donna, because it is relevant. It was the first time I was at the Arthur Findlay College, and I was sitting there in the beautiful room. I can't remember which room it was. I know the room in my mind, but I
I
can't
remember
remember.
it was the lecture
Oh,
room.
it was the lecture room. I couldn't remember what its formal title was. And
Yeah.
Donna did this beautiful talk over the space of an hour, which was really, really, sometimes you just get one of those talks that makes you go, oh, a penny dropped in my mind then, and it made a lot of sense. So I guess leading nicely on, obviously you've heard a little bit about Donna in the intro, but Donna, tell us about you.
Wow. Where do I
It's a big
start?
question.
It is
Where
a
do
big
you start?
question.
It is a big question.
Well, I'm one of those people that came to mediumship later in life. I was actually 36 when I discovered there was a spirit world. Um, I'd never had any.
Oh, same age as me when I discovered it.
There you are. Something else in common.
It is. Sorry, I interrupted you there. That
That's
just
all right. Not a
was
problem.
interesting. Go on.
And I hadn't had any particular religious upbringing other than what we get exposed to at school, going to weddings, funerals, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And I was going through a time in my life where my children were still quite young, and I was actually a dressage rider. I actually kept horses for a number of years and was interested in competitive dressage riding.
Oh.
And I was just flicking through the satellite TV one day because we used to have Eurosport on back in the day. And I came across Living TV, which is a channel that doesn't exist anymore, I don't think. And there was
Sounds
a
like the sort of channel that you stumble across at 11 o'clock at night when there's nothing else on.
bit like that, yeah. And there was a medium called Derek Acora, who you may have heard of.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's in the spirit world now. And he was giving messages from the spirit world to a studio audience. Well, I'd never seen anything like it. I was completely transfixed by Derek and these messages. But coming from a very skeptical background, I couldn't really believe it. You see, throughout my whole working career, I'd actually been in IT, in systems analysis, and I actually worked for the police at one stage. And
So
my
did I.
another coincidence there. And my dad was a police officer as well. I wasn't actually a police officer. I was a civilian employee of the police force. But my dad was always one of these people that if we were watching magic shows on TV, he would tell us how it was done. He would explain every single trick. You wanted to know how something was done. There was no mystery. My dad could tell you. So when I was watching Derek Acora giving messages to a studio audience from supposedly dead people, I was thinking, well, this is a trick. This is either he knows all these people or they're stooges, they're saying yes to him, this can't be true. But something in me made me want to keep watching. So I made sure that I tracked the TV schedules and made sure I followed every time he was on. But then there were other mediums also coming onto this channel. Colin Fry was one, John Edward from America, James Van Prague. They were all doing shows on this on Living TV, along with a program called Most Haunted. I don't know if you remember
Oh, yes. I wish the channel was still on. It sounds
that.
amazing. I'd be tuning in. Bring back
Absolutely.
Living TV. Where is it?
And so I was absolutely enthralled by all of this. And so I thought, do you know what? The only way I'm going to find out if this is real or not is if I actually have a reading. But I didn't know where to go about getting one, or, I'd heard them talk about spiritualist churches and things, but I wasn't quite brave enough to go along on my own. So at that time, Derek was doing telephone readings, and he actually advertised a PO box where you could send a check off to. Remember those checks?
Yes, I do.
Send
This is rather nostalgic, this episode. Very nostalgic, I do remember. Just
show me,
about.
show me age, Jason. Show me age. That's what I'm doing.
No, there's a bit of an overlap there, Donna. I do agree.
And so I sent a check off to this post office box with my phone number and waited for Derek to call me to make
Very trusting in this day and age. I wouldn't dare do that. I'd think it was a scam. It shows how times have
it
changed.
wasn't a massive amount of money, but yeah, you're right. Looking back, I was quite trusting. And waiting for Derek to call me to make this appointment, and blow me down, he did. I mean, it was like speaking to a celebrity because I'd seen him on the television, and he was bringing me in my kitchen, making this appointment for the phone reading. Anyway, cut a long story short, I had this reading, and he could tell me stuff about my grandparents. He told me stuff about my children, obviously on the psychic level, and he actually made a prediction. He said to me, he said he wanted to talk about a lady called Susan. And I said, okay, well, my best friend is Susan. And I said, and she's actually visiting me tomorrow. And he said, oh, Susan is going to bring news of Richard. And I said, I don't know any Richards. And he was like, just watch for this news, you see. And I'm thinking, wrote it down, bear it in mind. Anyway, my friend turns up and I open the front door to her and she's all stressed. And she went, oh my goodness me. She said, you know that dentist that lives next door to me? And I'm like, who's that? And she said, Richard, Richard. I was like, Richard? She said, yeah, his dog just jumped up and scratched my car. And I was like, oh my goodness me. There's something in this. There's something in it. So then I thought, well, I can put all this on one side now because this had been bugging me for a while. I've had my reading.
You've answered some of life's questions. There's more to the world than perhaps can be seen. Yeah, let's just park that now. That was interesting.
Leave that on one side. Yes. Get back to family, horses.
Of course.
Everything that I know, you see. Marvelous. Except I started having experiences of my own. At night, one night, I remember I was lying in bed and I remember I had people coming for dinner the next day. And in my head, I was going through the things that I would have to do, what I've got to get out the freezer, lay the table, so on and so forth. So in my head, I was hearing myself going through all of this. And slightly to the side of me, I was aware of a man's voice talking to me. But I couldn't hear him properly because this other me was going through this checklist of what I had to do tomorrow. And then it was like a second me was telling the me going through the checklist to shut up so I could listen to the man. And
oh my goodness.
It was, to me, that was like, looking back on it, which I did with education, it's like, that was my soul's voice trying to quieten my conscious mind so I could hear the spirit world.
What a story.
that
Do you know what? The first thing that's going through my mind is I'm kind of half wishing that my spiritual story was so many revelations. Because it was, I felt mine was more, to go, there is concrete, there's no way this can be done. All of my experiences were kind of, well, I can kind of rationalize that and the balance of probability this. And, there wasn't that aha nail in the coffin moment where I had to, beyond all reasonable doubt, it just wasn't as much as that. But I do you know what an interesting part of the story. So it kind of sounds like it awoke something within you in a way.
It did. That's exactly what happened. It's like I started to recognize that I was more, as you said, than just this physical body, that there was more to life. And then I had another experience where I was again laying in bed because I think I had such an active mind being in IT and analysis and everything, that it had to, I now understand how I had to be in those quiet states between awake and asleep for the spirit world to actually get through to me. And I was in bed one night and I felt a really hard, and I kid you not, tap on the top of my head like that. And I was on my own. There was nobody else with me. And it was really funny. It sort of like resonated all through my head. I couldn't describe it. And it was like, this must have been from something else. It can't have been of this physical world. There's no way. There's no way. I was still awake enough to know I wasn't tapping myself on the head. And Derek Akora at that time, he had an online internet forum, which I had joined, a chat room. So there was no Zoom, there was no Skype. There was, you typed messages to each other in little boxes and things, and had little usernames and things like
I
that.
used to, I was part of a few chat rooms in my day. Definitely brought the conversation out, wasn't it? Because it was just a blinking cursor. So you,
Definitely. But you used to miss so much, didn't you, when it looked sort of like,
oh,
oh,
you
scrolled
did.
up the screen.
And it was very overwhelming to go back up. You sort of just had to tune in from that moment.
You did. And so I jumped onto this chat forum and explained what had happened to me. And a lady on there said, I know a medium that does, and you're going to laugh at this, tape recorded sittings. So she said, again, you had to send a check off to this medium, and a blank cassette tape, and she would record you a reading and send it back. So
there's something quite magical about that, isn't there? Getting
there
it back
is.
and
Oh my
then
God, the
putting it in a cassette
excitement.
recorder. Yeah.
Absolutely. And listening. And you know what? She had like an aviary with birds and things. So in the background, you could hear all these birds tweeting, and it sort of like conjured up images of her sitting somewhere, either in a conservatory or somewhere, with all her birds around her. And she's
Do you still have the tape?
I probably do somewhere, to be honest.
Oh, you should listen back to it.
I should. And she told me that it was now my time to awaken, and it was actually my grandfather responsible for tapping me on the head.
Oh, she knew about that.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
yeah, she knew
I
about
wasn't
it.
expecting you to say that.
So, but she said I had choice. I could choose if I wanted to go forward with it and develop it, or whether I just wanted to leave it where it was. But of course, then I think I resonate really with what you were saying about the ifs and the buts and the maybes. It was like, well, am I a medium? Is it me? Is it possible? Am I, because I've been watching all this stuff on the TV and because I've been reading about it and thinking about it, is this an aspect of my mind that is making this happen for me? So this is then when all of the questioning starts to
I
kick.
want to ask you about I think that you've just brought up something very interesting, actually. That is an interesting point. Because I'm asking myself this same question, Donna, to be to be one thing I know, and I did pick this up in your sheet that you very kindly filled out before you came on when I was reading through. And one of the parts I highlighted here was your kind of, I'm going to go and research this and research that and go and read this and get my hands on this.
Yeah,
And you were on a mission for knowledge.
I was.
And I've asked myself the same question. I'm sitting here trying to develop, am I a medium? Am I maybe meant to just have an awareness of this? Because it's not coming to me easily at times. It does come to me when it wants to come to me, but the
The struggle is real,
perseverance,
Jason. Yeah.
yeah, and like, why am I? But then I can't leave it alone. I keep coming back to it. I keep thinking, why am I still bloody back here trying to do this again? It's like,
Yeah.
but anyway, I guess this is going to tell us about your experience then with these questions you've been asking yourself.
That's right. And looking back now again with greater understanding of the whole process, and hopefully this will resonate with you as well, Jason, is that this ability for mediumship is a natural aspect of our soul. We have been born with this ability, even if we weren't aware of it from the age of 36. It's always been there, just like people that have the ability for music or art or something like that. We have this ability, but the timing has to be right. We have to go through life's experiences, you know, feel pain, feel joy, be at a certain place in life for this to come to the surface and us to recognize it. And maybe our soul knows that at that time we would do something with it, that we would investigate further. So all of these questions that we're asking ourselves at this time are because we have come to it maybe later in life. We're people that have always had spiritual experiences and always had this knowing about the spirit world. Maybe it's a little bit easier for them. Maybe it isn't. Maybe they also have their own difficulties with self-analysis and things, but maybe because we came to it later in life and we've got this critical analytical mind that's very grounded in the physical for 36 years, then all of a sudden it's a little bit of a problem to get your head round.
Can I ask you a question about this? Something that just popped into my mind. You will notice we keep going down these rabbit holes over the course of the hour because you touch on something. When I first, I understand. So my kind of recent experience, when I first started to ask myself these questions, and yes, I'm very grounded in the physical. I've been very successful in the physical. I've been through the many degrees of the life of hard knocks, very well experienced now in physical life. But when I did realize there was more to life, initially it actually made me a bit unhappy because then I started to question more, what the hell am I doing? What is this all about? Initially, I went through a period, I would say, of feeling a bit down. Because maybe it was, I knew there was more, but then felt I couldn't really access it, and it wasn't developing. You pick, because people might think, right, you've awoken, there's more, you can now connect with spirit. It's all rainbows and sunshines, because I know that life is external from there.
It's not like that, is it?
No, it's not like that.
It's not like that. We have to. Someone said to me when I first discovered this potential for mediumship, they said to me, "You're going to change. You've got to change." And I said, "Well, I don't really want to change. I quite like who I am." The thought of changing was scary to me. And I thought, well, perhaps I can develop it, but I can make sure that I'm still me, that I don't have to change. But I'm sure you will also recognize, Jason, that when we start on this path, it is a real journey of introspection as well. We have to examine our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our prejudices as well,
Yes.
our assumptions that we make about people, about life. And there are aspects of that sometimes aren't very easy, and maybe not even easy to admit to ourselves about what we think about life, what we think about people and situations in general. But this is all part of our soul's evolution, our soul's growth, that eternal progress, this journey that we're all on. And if we think about us and our mediumship, we are the instrument of our mediumship, all of us. It isn't something that we can separate. Well, that's the mediumship. I do that when I go to church, when I go to open circle, whatever. We are that instrument, warts and all, everything that we are combined, we bring to the spirit world, we bring to our mediumship. And I think in the early stages of development, we think it's going to be technical development. We just need the secret. We need someone to tell us how to do it, and then we'll do it. I used to watch Colin Fry on the TV and think, oh, we must be like picking up the phone and talking to the spirit world. And I wanted to know what he did. What music did he listen to prepare to? What books did he read? Where did he go? I would do the same, and it would work like that for me.
Do you know why I'm laughing? Because your explanation of that is very adept, because It is. You're trying to assess the technical. Because I kept saying, right, okay, right, close my eyes. How do I push out my all? Right, it's me all right, right. I'm meant to take the breath. Right, the breath in, the light grows. It's in, then out, in, then out. Then shift, then blend, and no, nothing's happening again. Right, we'll try again tomorrow. Then something did happen. Oh God, what was that? So I do understand that because I've been at that stage, and now you do have to examine your thoughts and everything, and it's definitely made me look at myself in a whole different way in so many regards. And to
Sure.
do that work on oneself is very hard as well.
It's
It's not
incredibly
always
hard.
easy because
Mm.
then you start realizing, because I've been watching this really interesting program, so interesting over the last few days, by Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it's
Mhm.
called Rewired. Have you heard of it?
Okay. I have heard of it. I've seen it
Yeah,
advertised.
it's and it talks about change and
Mhm.
how difficult change is for
Mm.
us human beings, because it's all a sequence of brain neurons. It's, we are habit of the day before, and to change, to form those new neurons, um, requires a certain set of behaviors and intentions.
It does.
I'm just going to try my best to explain something scientific, and I do it absolutely awfully because I'm so bad. And he says this on the show, actually. He says, if you can't explain something properly for someone else to actually understand, it means you don't know it well enough. And I thought, yeah, that's a very good point.
Very true. Very true. Yes,
Yes.
interesting. There's another book about habits. I think it's written by James Clear, about changing habits. And I read that last year, and that's very enlightening as well. And how we can set ourselves up for success when we want to develop new habits rather
Mm.
than getting stuck and failing.
I love a good book recommendation. Thank you for that. So you had to go through lots of changes yourself throughout
Yeah,
this journey.
yeah.
I'm so mindful that I want to talk to you about so much. So I'm thinking very carefully about my questions here. When you went through some of these, can you maybe give us some of the lessons that you've had to learn along the way, and some of the, right, okay, you can answer that however you want, Donna, to be honest with you.
I think you probably don't um recognize them so much at the time. It's only looking back on them. I suppose it was learning that people will need to be people and behave in the way that they need to in life. I suppose that was a big lesson, especially I looked up to these people like Derek Acorah, Colin Fry. I put these mediums on a pedestal.
Mm.
And it was a case of recognizing, well, actually, we are all the same. It's just that we're on different parts of our journey. We are all human doing the best that we can at any one moment in time. And that was something that I had to come to terms with and learn about. Forgiveness, I suppose, is a big one. It's a widely discussed topic. I feel like maybe from time to time we all feel like we've been on the receiving end, maybe of some harsh treatment or negative words from somebody. But it's recognizing that that's not actually who they are, that they are a soul animated by the power of spirit, and because they've done something or said something, that doesn't actually define them as a human being, as a person. It's that
Mm.
spiritual side that we have to recognize. And I suppose that was also something that I found quite hard to work on in myself, and maybe still do have to work on that. But there's another book that I like called Letters from Julia, and it's written by one of our spiritualist pioneers, William Stead. I don't know if you've heard of him at all. He actually died on the Titanic, unfortunately.
What was the
But
book called again?
Letters from Julia.
As you can
And
tell, I'm writing these down.
I could never tell.
No, no, I'm not very subtle in doing it. I could barely see without my glasses on, to be honest with you. I haven't got them on because they make me too sweaty, Donna, and it's the hottest day of the year. I don't know if I
Is it-
mentioned that
I
already.
wouldn't be able to
Oh,
see you if I
oh,
didn't have mine on, you see. So
oh.
yeah, it's a must.
You look
But
very cool, calm, and collected, though. I'm sitting here melting, so maybe.
I'm melting as well, don't worry.
Uh,
Letters from Julia was written by William Stead, and he started off life as a newspaper editor, journalist, and his friend Julia passed to the spirit world when she was only in her 30s. And she began to use William's hand for automatic writing and began to write letters to him from the spirit world about life there and life here. And she talks a lot about love and how we should all have love for one another. And I don't know about you, but when I first heard that, it was quite a difficult concept to understand, because obviously we love each other as we love our families and our friends, maybe, but loving strangers and recognizing that spirit within that makes us all one, then that was something, again, I struggled with. I found that very difficult to get my head round, but reading letters from Julia did help with that.
You know what? When you say that, in my mind, I like to think that I'm trying to move my life in such a direction that I apply that principle.
Mm.
But if I'm being totally honest with you, I don't feel like I do love every single person in the
It's not
world at the
easy.
moment.
No, it's
No.
definitely not easy. It's definitely not. I think the best we can do is recognize them for who they are.
Would you say anyone's at a place where they in their life where would you say that you love Vladimir Putin?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it?
It
So
is
very
difficult.
difficult.
It is difficult.
But do you recognize that eternal aspect of him that's deep in there somewhere?
I do, but I struggle with it, Donna. I'm
Yeah, no,
struggling with that at the moment.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I I because I've had this recently where there's not many people that I really dislike, but there is someone who's done a lot of horrible things to my family. And then I recently I've gone down this line in my mind where I've now this is my understanding and my current belief about what happens when we pass to the other side.
Yeah.
My current belief is that we go when we pass over, we go and we have a life review
Mhm.
where the person who has passed has to live back all of their experiences and every interaction they've had with everyone who they've touched in their life, but then they're kind of forgiven and brought into the love of the eternity. And I do struggle that this lady I do feel I really want to forgive, but I can't forgive you, for what you've done.
But
It's very hard.
you're suggesting there is a higher power that forgives this person
I'm
regardless.
suggesting that they get to move into exactly the same place as a perceived good person if
Right.
they've done very evil, horrible things.
Right. Wow. I think we all.
I've gone off on a whole different tangent
That's
here,
all
haven't
right.
I?
It's interesting. It's interesting. Hopefully, people will be interested to hear us. And again,
Uh,
these are just my thoughts. But
yeah.
if we think that we are all at different stages of our own soul's evolution,
Yes.
then why would we all be with people who are at different stages of their evolution? If that person that you're talking about is at a different stage of her, she may not recognize what her actions, the impact her actions have had in life.
Yes. Yes.
She may not want to evolve and learn and grow and things like that.
Mm,
We talk
yes.
about personal responsibility a lot in this life, but surely there's going to be personal responsibility if we're having this life review. Otherwise, there doesn't seem much point in it, does there?
You make a very good point as well about the evolution of one's soul. And, then there's another way of looking at it. If she, I don't know why I'm focusing on this person, but, a person may need to come back and relive a different life because they haven't evolved, their soul hasn't evolved as much as it needs to. And people could be at different stage. Well, I think everyone's at a different stage of evolution, aren't they, with their soul's journey? We're all on our own path and journey.
Probably, yeah, I think we probably are. We've all come here for different reasons. Our soul maybe knows what those reasons are. They were something that was decided before we incarnated into this physical body. And maybe our conscious mind is unaware of what those reasons are for the majority of the time.
This is so interesting. I could talk about this for ages. I find it. I think I'm quite like you, Donna, in the sense that I kind of want to all these things. I just find them fascinating, and I think the reason why I can't leave mediumship alone is because it all started for me with the question of what is the point of this?
Yeah,
We born, then we die. What is the point of it all? Like,
yeah,
I played the material game where I thought money would bring me eternal happiness,
yeah,
never having had any grown up. And
yeah,
then I went through the 12 difficult, well, it was more than 12 years. I don't mind my saying it was a bloody 12 years. I can't remember how many years it is. I'm awful with years. But I slogged off for many, 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 many years to eventually, through many failings and many life lessons, very painful life lessons, and many nearly gone bankrupt, then finally built a multi-million-pound business, then nearly lost it, then got it back and thought, what the hell am I doing this for? Because it's not bringing me any joy. It's and I at one point I stopped. I said to myself, to my mum, I said, do you know what? The happiest I ever was when I worked in a restaurant. I didn't have a pot to piss in. I was happy then.
yeah.
And and then that was where it sort of catapulted everything. But then it's funny because the earlier point you make about um, being ready at 36, I wasn't ready before, because back then I thought the answer to happiness was something totally different and whatever. My
But you
soul
had this,
wasn't ready.
well, your conscious mind wasn't ready.
I sometimes question if my conscious mind is still ready now.
That part of you that we know as Jason isn't
Yeah.
necessarily the authentic you. The part that was awakened with this mediumship, it keeps pulling you back to it, is your soul that has come here to express that the part of your soul that has a need to serve in some way. This podcast that you diligently produce week in, week out for all of us, selflessly, for free. That is service. That is serving the spirit world.
Yeah. Do you know what? The podcast is a funny old thing as well, because, and I'm gonna move on back because I haven't finished on her. I've got more questions. We're
Okay.
trailing off to me now. But the podcast, initially I did it, and it's actually tested me in a lot of ways, because I struggled to get, and I really noticed this. I've gone through a couple of years of almost feeling like the hermit, of not really want. I used to go out a lot. Now I don't really go out at all. Like, I'm struggling to, get out there in the evenings and stuff, because I'm tired, or I just want to chill at home. And I noticed, and I started the podcast because I was really interested. Then it's tested me at times, because I thought, oh, I'm too busy now. It's too much. I've done the ADHD thing of booking in 80 episodes over the course of a year, not really giving it too much
Wow.
thought. Also,
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't 80, or maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe it's about, it was a lot. It was a lot. But
Yeah.
it's made me stick to commitment, and I have learned a lot from it.
Brilliant.
I have learned a lot from it. But that brings me nicely on to a couple of things I want to ask you about. Now,
Mhm.
when you again filled out the form,
Mhm.
you talked about the development of mental mediumship,
Yeah.
particularly discipline, patience, and trust.
Mm,
And we've just talked about discipline. I'm still here, I'm still doing it.
yeah.
Patience, I'm not particularly known for that. And trust, I don't give it away easily. But
Yeah.
talk to us about these subjects.
Well, mediumship is often a contradiction in terms, because we talk about this natural ability of our soul that we were born with. And when you think
Mm.
natural, you think, oh, well, if it's natural, I should just be able to do it. I should just be able to do it. But it's the same as anything. It needs training. But then comes in this contradiction where we want your mediumship to be free. We want you to be able to blend with the spirit world, sense their presence, and deliver what it is they've got to say. But then we're also going to put certain requirements on you, Jason, because we want you to evidence these communicators to make sure that you are actually doing what you say you're doing. So do you see the contradiction there? It's like we want you to be free and natural and everything, but on the other hand, there's certain things that we're going to ask you for. So like we're going to ask you if you can bring the relationship of the person, the communicator, through. And you can actually train these things within your mediumship to make it, to set this standard, as you were, working hand in hand with the partnership, with the spirit world, because we're always a 50-50 partnership with them, but suggesting to them that maybe if it's possible for the spirit world, could we work with them to bring the relationship forward at the start of our contacts? And for the majority of the time, they will work with us to do that. Once we've done that, we're starting to immediately narrow down our sitters' minds as to who is communicating. And if we say we've got your dad in the spirit world, and they say, well, no, my dad's not in the spirit world, then we know that straight away there's something that we've got to fix. So we can train that aspect of our mediumship, which a lot of people don't recognize. They think that they are not victims of their mediumship, but they think it's just something that happens to them and they have to take what comes.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's how would you, so let's just take this one point then on relationship. Because at the moment when I do it, we'll go back to me because I guess let's give a case study example.
Yeah, sure.
When I do a reading, at the moment I'm just letting whatever comes to me, and it's normally right, but I don't know. You know, I don't have a tick list or a thing, and you know, but.
Yeah.
How do so if I'm struggling, because I'm not going to say I've got the relationship right all the time. If it's not right, then how do I identify why it's not right and what do I need to do about it, Donna?
Well, I always encourage students to develop that sensing aspect of their mediumship. And I don't know if you're working with that at the moment, but in the early stages, a lot of people focus on seeing. And I was one of those people. Because again, I was trying to prove it to myself. Am I the medium? Am I not the medium? And if I'm seeing something in my head that I wasn't thinking about, then that must have come from the spirit world. And therefore, I'm proving it to myself as I'm doing it. Do you recognize that about yourself as well, about looking for pictures?
I do. I do. And a big learning thing for me recently has been to understand that I know my own mind. I know the way I think. If something is going to enter, and this was a big one for me, is it
Yeah.
me or is it my bloody imagination?
Yeah.
And I had to really, but it took me a long time to get to that point of going, right, I know my mind. I know what is likely to enter my mind. So if something pops in that isn't my mind, then trust that, because I had to really understand that the because I was saying the mind was the enemy for a long time. It's
Right.
my mind. I need to switch off my mind. But obviously, the spirit world needs to use my mind.
Exactly
I
right.
need to embrace the mind. But that's taken me about 8 months to get to that point of understanding,
Oh, is
Donna.
that all? I think it took me a lot longer than that.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. I
but
think
this
it
has been
did.
a big thing. I haven't. I've had this. Is it me or is it my imagination now for what feels like forever?
But Jason, what if I told you that it is your imagination? What
And
if I
that's
told
enough.
you
Yeah.
that the spirit world use your imagination in order to help get experiences across to you?
It's mind blowing when you say it as well. How does the spirit world even know what lives within our imagination?
Because every single experience we've ever had in life, every word that's been uttered to us, every person that we've ever known is stored in our soul. It's too great for the conscious mind to comprehend. But when we blend soul to soul with the spirit world, our soul is also aware of that spirit person's life experiences, but it's too much for our conscious mind to take on another person's life experiences. Okay, but the spirit world can trigger experiences that we have had in life in order to help them share their stories.
That's so fascinating when you explain it like that.
But does it make sense?
Yeah,
You
it
must
makes
have had
sense. It does make
communications.
sense.
You must have given communications to people where you thought, well, I've done this, or this is what I did. And yet when you say it to the other person, they say, well, yeah, that's true of my grandfather. He was like that. Because you'll feel like you're describing somebody you know.
Yeah, and this happened the other day as well. I was doing a reading for because I'm part of a development group. But it's with this funny tutor. She's been around for years and years, donkey's years, but she seems to really resonate with me. She's a really funny lady. Very her teaching style is very unique. And I was doing a reading for a lady, and it entered my head the old baths, that people would go to back in the 50s or whatever, the public
Yeah. Public
baths.
baths, yeah.
And what entered my mind was a particular public bath, but I just said public bath. I didn't go the one in Bedminster that's now shut down that used to be da 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 da. And then at the end, she said, "Oh, she said the public baths, that brings back memory. My granddad used to take me to the one in Bedminster." I went, "Thank."
And that's where you develop the big
Yeah,
bruise on your leg where you kick yourself very
yes.
hard because you knew something that you didn't say. And that experience is gone because you can't say to the sitter afterwards, you know what, I knew that. I knew that.
I did say that to her. I
Oh,
said
did
I knew
you?
it was. I said it was that one. It was that one. But
Yeah.
it taught me a very valuable lesson that night, and I would say I learn a lot. I learn a lot from most readings, and it taught me to just go with the detail of what has come. Don't use your own mind to start policing and rationalizing it. And there was another
Yes.
example where I was doing another reading for someone, and I kept getting really quickly like Snow White, Pinocchio, and all the Disney cartoons from that era. Because I've got ADHD brain, I can process a lot very quickly. So I just said to her, "I'm sensing that when you was a young girl, you really like this, that, the other." And she said, "Oh, it's funny you say that because at the moment I'm writing a book all themed around these Disney characters, and it was a present moment thing. And I should have
Yes.
just said, I'm getting this, that, this, that, this, that." But then I took it, rationalized it. My thoughts obviously went, right, I want to make sure I get this right. So I'm just going to go stick it there.
Exactly, exactly. And you're not
Yeah.
the only person that does that. I was working with a student recently and she brought through my grandmother and she was said, I know at the bottom of your grandmother's garden there was an orchard of apple trees. And I said, no, there wasn't. And she's like, well, I can see this orchard, the apples. I said, well, that wasn't correct. I said, what was your first experience that you had? And she said, oh, well, it was a long garden with a single apple tree at the bottom of it. I said, well, if you'd have told me that, that would have been my grandmother's garden. But well, how did you suddenly make it into an orchard of apple trees? And she said, oh, well, I thought it was a bit boring. And everybody's grandmother had an apple tree at the bottom of the garden, didn't they? And I was like, okay,
You
not
see
quite
where she's
sure.
gone wrong there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And changed a perfectly good, valid piece of evidence into something completely, well, not 100 million miles off the mark, but just a no. And how many times do we do that as mediums? How many times do we get something at the start of a communication and then make it a bit general, think, oh, I'm not saying that. That's a bit, oh, that's going to be really specific. They're probably going to say no to me. I better make it a bit general. So I've got more chance, maybe,
That
of
was it. Yeah, more chance because
getting a yes.
the ego's kicking in. I don't want to know. I'm going to play it safe so I get a partial yes.
Exactly. And then we've got
Yeah.
to think about, again, this is another thing of self-reflection, Jason. It's, am I going for the yeses? Is that what I am working towards getting? Or am I delivering what the spirit world want
Mm,
to
mm.
say, whether I get it right or wrong? And if I get it wrong, I can work with that evidence and I can understand my experience, maybe describe it in a different way, because 9 times out of 10, it's just language, the way we've said something that our sitter says no to us. But if we have actually gone off on a tangent and got something completely wrong, we need to understand why that happened. We can reflect on it, journal it, go over it in our minds, so that next time we can do it different.
You know what? I personally have learned more from. I learn more from when I get it wrong
Yeah,
than when I get it right. And I've recently started to have to say to myself, Jason, you are serving spirit here.
yeah,
You are not serving, yourself in, because sometimes you do sit down and you lose a bit of touch on. I'm going to development, right? I want to get, yes, I do. I must admit, I do always make an appointment with my spirit team, and I go as I'm the day before. I'm saying, don't forget tomorrow, 7 p.m. 7 p.m. I need help, and then on the way there, I'll be driving there, and I'll say, right, come on, I need to help now. I'm on my way. Don't let me down tonight.
They've had it in their calendar for months, Jason. They've had the alert set 30 minutes
I
before with a
do.
special. Your spirit team will have had that. They know. They're like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's
reminding
silly.
us
I know they
again.
know because obviously the bloody there, but I still feel like I have to call up to please help me.
Yeah.
Especially when I get someone come to my house, I get a whole nother level of it doesn't happen often. I'm not doing loads of in-person readings. I do dabble. But I like getting out there and developing in a circle. But when I am doing readings, I must admit, I still now I have to get myself calm, the quiet in the mind, give myself sufficient time to relax and but then I have realized recently my warm up, when I now get ready, I don't spend too long. So I will have 10 minutes quick because then I don't it doesn't allow me to overthink it straight into it.
Yeah.
No
Absolutely.
messing about.
It's the pressure that we put on ourselves,
It
Jason,
is.
that limits the freedom within our mediumship. We need our minds to be free for the spirit world, but also you need to be. Don't forget, it's active mental mediumship. And when we're too passive at the start, too much meditation, too much slowing down, then we're not reaching those active minds of the spirit world
Mm.
as well as we could be.
Is that because you're making your energy too low?
Well, if we think about the passive states of mediumship, which are healing and trance, it requires us to be very passive, still in the body, stilling the mind. We never ever get rid of the thoughts, but we can become observers of them, let them in and out again, the other side, as it were. But when we're doing active mediumship, we really need to have practiced holding our minds in the spirit world, developing this focus that I was talking about, this mental discipline where we hold our mind in the spirit world, but we don't expect communication to take place. We are building a relationship with our team and we are building that mental focus, that discipline that holds our mind in this alert state, like we're waiting for something, we're waiting, but without expecting anything to happen. And we develop that
Mm.
through sitting in the power. And I'm sure you've heard that term used before.
Yeah, it took me a long time to work out what it was. So when you were holding your mind in that connected state,
Yeah.
you're trying to, in that moment, shut down your own conscious thoughts.
Well, you won't ever shut them down. It's just not to pay attention to them, not
Mhm.
to focus on them. Because don't forget, your mind, as we've already discussed a little bit about the mind, doesn't like change. It
No.
doesn't want this spiritual side of you to be developed. We're quite happy as we are, Jason. What do you need to do all this spiritual stuff for? You're a success in life. You've done really well for yourself. What do you want to do this for now? And your conscious mind's voice is really loud, and
Mm.
your soul's voice is quiet. But during those times of sitting in the power, we are saying to our conscious mind, listen, I've got this. This is fine. I want to develop this spiritual aspect. It's going to try and distract you with thoughts. You're going to feel aches and pains in your body, which you never knew you had before, again, which is your conscious mind's way of distracting you. And yet we focus that discipline and that alert, active, sitting in the power state, which is training our mind to stay in the power for longer and longer. So you can do a 30-minute sitting. So you can do a 90-minute demonstration and keep your mind in that place in the spirit world without being distracted, not only by your thoughts and your physical body, but in the fullness of time, being distracted by your sitter, by someone knocking at the door, by the phone ringing. If you're in a demonstration, people get up and go out to the toilet. They pass the sweets amongst themselves, get the popcorn out. Phones go off, even though they've all been told to turn them on to silent.
Yeah, I almost feel at the moment, Donna, if I was to do a demonstration at the front of a room, I'd have to have one of those things. Please turn all mobiles off. Please leave them at the door. Please keep all noise to a minimum. I'll have that big tannoy out.
Absolutely.
No distractions. Any noises will be told to leave the auditorium. They'd have to have those people there at a theatre show in the West End. Chuck them out. They've got a torch.
That's it. Yes, they're recording it on their phone. They're recording it. Yes. So this is why one of the reasons why we sit in the power to hold our mind. This is part of the discipline, the focus that I was talking about.
I want to ask, because honestly, Donna, I could go for another hour. I find this so interesting. I could probably go till 10 p.m. But you know, in the interest of the people listening. So
Absolutely.
sitting in the power, because I'm going to ask about this now because you have brought this up.
Okay.
Trying to develop that in your to hold this connection better. What are the mechanics that you would suggest one should go through when trying to? Because there's so many sitting in the powers doing this and and I must admit, when I first started doing it, in the end I just had to go, right, I'm sitting in silence, nothing on. But how would one, what are the mechanics of this?
Well, there are two aspects to it. There's sitting in the power of your own soul and sitting in the power with spirit. Okay. So when we sit in the power of our soul, because I'm a very visual person, I like to visualize my soul's power emanating from the center of me, just by what we would call our solar plexus, just above our tummy buttons. So my soul's power rises and fills my whole body and emanates out into the room that I'm sitting in. Because really our aura is a visual representation of that soul's power. It is that emanation of our soul's power, which is our aura. And we can expand our aura out into the room that we're in, and we can sit in that power of our own soul. And when we do that, we allow our soul to reveal things to us. It can reveal things that we're good at, things that we should be celebrating about ourselves, which we rarely give ourselves credit for, because the physical part of us likes to be humble. It doesn't want to be egotistical. And yet we've got strengths of our soul. Maybe one of yours is speaking, getting on with people, making people feel comfortable. We should be thinking, yes, I'm good at that. How can I do more of that? And these things may be revealed to us when we sit in the power of our soul, but it may also reveal to us those aspects that might need extra attention. Things that have happened to us in the past, maybe that we need to heal from and grow from and learn from. And sometimes stuff that we thought we'd dealt with comes back to the surface again when we sit in the power of our soul. So then we can take it a step further and expand our soul's power out into the universe, out into the world outside of us, out into the stars and the heavens, the universe, as far as it will go, because your soul's power is limitless, Jason, because it is not of the physical. It is that same divine power, that spark of God. And so we can expand that right out into the universe, and we can set that intention to hold our mind in that power, set the intention for this to be a time of communion with those selfless spirit individuals who have dedicated themselves to walk with us on this life's journey, that spirit team. Let them find out how to work with us, how to blend with us without interference from us, and for our mind just to stay focused in that power. And that's how I go about it.
You know what? Hardly surprised if you just become a tutor at the Arthur Findlay College because you're so good at explaining things.
Well, it has to make sense to me, Jason. Otherwise,
It's
like you said, I can't explain it to
yeah.
anybody else.
Do you know what? I can tell that you've done this and a while, a good long while, and that you've also had to really you explain something in a way that, like I said when I watched that program the other day, you have to really know something very, very well to be able to explain it in such a way that makes someone else understand. And I think you've done that eloquently. Honestly, I could talk to you for absolutely ages about all of this. I was sitting there again writing notes. If you do want to find out more about Donna, you know where you can go to. It's the show notes. Donna, would
Yes,
you do the honors or the honor, the honors? We could go
to be
for a
honest.
while. Of giving us a final thought or a pearl of wisdom or something to close your beautiful episode today.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So, well, I would really like to encourage you, Jason, and everybody that's developing their mediumship to never lose faith, never lose hope. The spirit world want your love, your support, and your service, and they want you to be their voice once more. And whatever you bring to the table, they will bring 10 million times more effort because they want it so much more than we do. And we want it a lot as developing mediums. We always think that, am I being of any service? Do the spirit world really want me? Yes, they do. Because without you, they don't have a voice. So I want you all to have faith in yourselves, trust that this is a greater power that comes from your soul, which is why it keeps calling you back. Even if you spend some time away from it, it will always be there. So I want everybody to trust themselves, trust their mediumship, trust the spirit world, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Well, that was so beautiful. I loved it. I loved every moment of it from the start to the end.
Oh, Jason.
Donna, thank you so much for coming on to the Soul Sing. I'm sure I'm saying this on behalf of everyone listening today. Thank you for coming on. It was beautiful.
It's been my absolute pleasure, Jason. Thank you so much for inviting me.